Welcome to the 14th episode of Vital Questions. As always, I'm your host, Guerrero with
La Co-host.
La Co-host. If people are hearing this, you might be like, what happened? Why is this episode out later than we're used to?
And also, thank you for noticing, because that means you're,
You know what? I didn't even think about that.
That's so
actually.
sweet.
Well, thank you for noticing that our episode is late this week.
Yeah.
We tried to put it out on Friday, but it has been, as always, if you're reading the title, it's about the revolution that's been happening in Los Angeles, and it's been so much to keep up with.
Yeah, that's why I was waiting for you to ask me how I'm feeling, and I was going to tell you nauseous.
Okay,
because I've been nauseous all week.
As you guys know, La Co-host does a lot of the research for this, puts the parameters in place on what we're going to learn, and we're going to learn a lot about what's been happening in LA, how it started, how we got here, where it's going. And every time that we were like, all right, we're ready to record, we're like, wait, this just happened? Hold on, we got to make a video. We got to report on this now. So now we have finally gotten the time.
Yeah, well, I like being honest also, and just like, being upfront. And I was obviously very tired. We talked about maybe postponing this to film it tomorrow, but tomorrow is June 14th. And
no King's Day.
Yeah, and it's no King's Day. So, we, for the sake of tracking when we're recording this, is June 13th, since everything changes a mile a minute.
Yeah, 8:38 p.m. is when we're officially hitting record.
Yeah.
So if we put this out and you're like, California is now in the ocean, like it's floated off. We're like, by the time we posted this, it was that's when it was floating.
Yeah.
We don't know.
I'm trying. Lord, it's been a week. It's been a week.
And let's listen, this is so much work that you put into this week, because if you're just getting what's been going on in LA in little bits, you're not getting the full picture.
Right.
So we're going to jump right into it.
Yeah.
As always, we're going to set up the parameters as to, people have had a lot of debate about what's going on in Los Angeles. How are people protesting? How are protests supposed to be handled and all that stuff? So we got a co-host here letting us know what our rights are, and then how the Trump administration is abusing them.
Yeah. And also, again, my disclaimer, this is not legal advice. Don't make that face.
No, of course.
It's not legal advice. If you need to seek legal advice, find your own lawyer. I'm not your lawyer. This is just for informational purposes only. I, per usual, encourage everyone to look up their own information. But again, hopefully this is a good resource for you all.
Also, if you feel inflammation, sore throat, we recommend you see a doctor.
Yeah, because COVID's still around. COVID's still around.
There's a new strain.
Yeah, there's a new strain. All right, no, let's not.
Okay, that's not what we're going to do.
Yeah,
but you know what? We just changed the title of the episode. Is COVID still OG?
Yeah, it is.
Still an OG out there?
I think so.
Okay.
All right, so let's start the way we always like to start, right? With the law, because it's so fun. And I know everyone loves being a legal geek like me. Anyways, so our right to protest comes from the First Amendment. So for everyone who didn't know what it says, let's read it. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting free exercise thereof, or abridging freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So that is the First Amendment. What we'll be focusing on is language, or abridging the freedom of speech, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble, or to petition the government for redress of grievances, because that's essentially what everyone is trying to do with these protests.
Oh, so when I say repress of grievances, that means
redress
of grievances. That's sort of us trying. What do you mean to petition the government? Like
to basically ask the government, hey, this is an issue.
Oh, right.
So usually you can, whether it's through a lawsuit, whether it's through like a formal writ of some kind, right, or whether it's through protesting, just basically letting the government know, hey, I have an issue with the way you guys are doing things, and I am a citizen, and this needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
So that is, under the Constitution, one of our rights. And yeah.
No, please. Go.
And with that, the idea of peaceably to assemble, that specifically is our right to protest. Right. We have the right, which is why everyone's trying to focus on it is peaceful protest. It's under the law. We're protected, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into the nuances of all of that. But that's the First Amendment. Yeah. In a nutshell.
And that's, and I know it's silly, but we're starting with the First Amendment. It's very important because, as we've seen, and we're literally, they're having no King's marches on, tomorrow, the 14th. And that is, the First Amendment gives you the power to speak up. And this is the main thing about not living under a dictatorship or under a king, is that you can speak up and petition for the government to, to deal with your issues.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And it's a very clear right. That's why this shouldn't be an issue. But again, we'll dive into the
Yeah.
nuance. So really straightforward, we're gonna go into the ACLU. So the ACLU has, per usual, wonderful resources. We're looking at their Know Your Rights section for protesters' rights. They have different scenarios. I'm organizing a protest. I am attending one. Want to take pictures or shoot a video at a protest. Stop by police while protesting. I want to share this information on social. Oh, actually, that last one is just there. They give you shareables.
Okay.
Since a lot of people will be attending protests, especially
Yes.
tomorrow, we're going to be focusing on this section of their Know Your Rights section, right? So this is where you're attending a protest. The first thing to know is you actually have the strongest rights in a public setting, right? So when it comes to your right to protest, right? So that means if you can't go into a business, a private business and protest, right? Like that's a private business. Same logic, you can't go into a private home, right? But if you're on a public street, not obstructing or interfering, as we have here, not blocking access to a government building or interfering with any other purpose that's served for that government building, and also you're not blocking traffic, which is another big thing, you have the right to protest in public, right? There are scenarios where you're supposed to get permits to protest. My guess is maybe larger scale ones. I'm guessing the organizers of these bigger scale protests are getting permits, but you don't always have to have one. Because if it's an urgent need, that's the exception here, right?
Yes.
If there's an urgent need to protest because, I don't know, the government's kidnapping people, maybe we don't have time to actually get a permit from said government.
Yeah. And let me not even talk right now because you're already putting down the tracks of, don't block cars and don't block federal buildings.
Oh, no,
and I'm like,
right. But I know we'll get to it. I know.
okay.
Again, we're just focusing on what the law says.
Okay.
Technically, that's what this says, right? So going on to actually bullet 3, counter protesters also have freedom of speech rights, something to keep in mind, right? So technically at your protest, you can have counter protesters show up and they don't have to be quiet. The police are supposed to be there to protect both sides and make sure there's no like fights or anything crazy happens.
Yeah. It's funny. I've seen a lot of those situations where you have protests, kind of protests, and then like the cops are literally like in the middle of both.
And that's exactly what they're, they are doing their job in that situation.
And they're supposed to be protecting both equally, but as we always know, it's not always equal.
Well, right. And that's exactly what I was going to point out. That's technically they're supposed to be doing that, but we always know that's not necessarily how it plays out.
Look at me and you always thinking the same. I think we both might be seeing the same moral.
Probably. And yeah, so this is what we were talking about for public spaces, right? So it's important to also know that you have the right to photograph anything in what's called plain view. So plain view is actually also just kind of like a legal concept. It's brought up in evidence. It's brought up in a lot of different other legal contexts, but basically it just means what it kind of sounds like, right? Like it's in plain, it's just visible. You don't have to move things. You're not looking, you're not digging through anything to find whatever it is. You're allowed to photograph and record whatever is in plain view during these protests, right? Though I do want to caveat and remind everyone, because I have, as we'll see, I have a lot of online content from the protests, but I do want to remind everyone to be conscious of who is in your videos, right? And not necessarily from a right to publicity kind of standpoint, like right to privacy or whatever, more so to protect each other, right? Make sure that if you have a protester in your video, hopefully their face isn't showing, right? Because let's remember how those types of videos are used then, right? Let's make sure that we encourage everyone to properly protect themselves, to the extent that, and again, encourage everyone to peacefully protest.
And know your rights when you get out there.
Exactly. And know your rights and be prepared.
I'll pull this back up for you.
Yeah. So then we go to just skipping down, right? What to do if you believe your rights are violated. I do suggest everyone to kind of look through this, right? You write everything down, get contact information for witnesses, take pictures, write a formal complaint, etc. Going to, because this is kind of what we're seeing in LA, what happens if the police issues an order to disperse the protests, right? So going back to what we were discussing earlier, you have the right to protest so long as you're not blocking government property, right? Or obstructing, or obstructing traffic, right? Which, again, we've seen that has been happening. We'll get into maybe why these things are happening, but technically speaking, yes, you're not supposed to be doing that. So what we've been seeing, and we'll show evidence to the fact, is yes, the police have been saying you can't be here anymore. You're obstructing something, whether a government building, because a lot of people are protesting in front of government buildings, because that's the issue, right?
The government's doing stuff.
The government is, kidnapping people and putting them in government buildings, hopefully. Well, because who knows? Who knows, right? So they are telling people to disperse. But what we see here is, technically speaking, after they issue the order of dispersal, they're supposed to provide a reasonable opportunity to comply, including sufficient time and a clear, unobstructed exit path. So I just want everyone to keep that requirement in mind, right? Because in order for them to leave, they have to obviously know where they can go, and maybe know where they're not going to run into more police officers who may or may not start hitting them with, I don't know. Clubs. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see what happens, right? We'll see what may or may not be happening. And so this is just kind of things to keep in mind, especially for tomorrow, especially for everyone that's going to be out there.
Please go to the ACO website and
ACLU.
ACLU website. Thank you. And make sure you know your rights when you're protesting. How to stay safe, how to and also make sure you're staying safe with your electronic devices too.
Yeah, there's
while you're out there.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So skipping ahead. Right. So really high level, because I easily could have gone into a lot more detail with this, but really high level, that those are your rights, right? You are allowed to record everything, including police officers. I think at this point we also have all known, and hopefully all understand, that any public official, any public officer, you can record them so long as you're not being aggressive towards them, so long as you're not getting in the way of police business. So yes, unfortunately, that's what's led to a lot of people just recording people getting detained and people getting caught up, because that's all we can really do.
That's all we can do right now.
And I, again, want to remind everyone that everything that we just went over in terms of the law, in terms of our rights, in terms of the limitations to our rights, it's with an understanding that our government is supposedly in that situation doing the right thing. They're supposed to be, ideally whatever we're protesting is something not as egregious as kidnapping. Right? It's not as egregious as the complete removal of due process. It's not as egregious as the constitutional crisis that we keep seeing left and right, whether it's senators getting dragged out for asking a question, whether it's judges getting charged for helping people, like whatever it is, we're seeing it left and right. So what we just talked about is a scenario where our government and our democracy isn't crumbling. This isn't a regular situation. This isn't, we're protesting for, I don't know, I don't want to diminish any cause, but
it's all causes at the same time.
Right, because
we're converging.
All of this is tied to each other, and everyone's
all of our struggles are tied.
And it's been really, I mean, you know how rough it is, but how it's been this week, but it's been really rough that I just don't understand how, again, what I say every week, that people don't see it. Because I, again, remind the people on the right, the Republican or conservative, whatever we want to call it, that why would so many people be coming out to protect quote unquote criminals?
No.
If that were the case, why would people be standing in front of tanks? Why would people be making human shields to protect people? Why would anyone be doing this? I need everyone to just be really rational and recognize that it can't be that all of us are that crazy. That's not what's happening here.
And I guess, we keep going back to, as a lawyer, it's a different level of heartbreak that you're having right now, because you've dedicated your life to the rule of law and how things are supposed to work and what the norms are. And look at it. The First Amendment is we have the right to peacefully protest and petition our government. And Donald Trump has said, number one, gone.
Yeah.
And we're about to show you how he's doing it.
Right. Exactly. So cool. That's in an ideal world, our government is supposed to be functioning properly, and our protest rights are what we just outlined. They stem from the First Amendment. They have certain limitations, but technically we should be able to peacefully protest in the way that we've been seeing most people do. So let's talk about what happened, right, in LA. So first up is, let me see if this shares. Nice. Okay. First up, it started back last June, I think. Last Friday.
I know, it seems so. Yeah, it was about June 7th.
June 7th.
Around roughly
June 7th. Yes, and that's when about 44 people were arrested by ICE across LA. And these were the situations that we were hearing about, people going to their work sites, right? Just getting abducted.
They were going to garments. They were going to different Home Depots. They were going to a lot of different locations, just picking up people.
Yeah. And again, the way that people are being picked up, we know that it's not following due process. It's not, they're not looking for specific people that have been charged with a crime. You're just racially profiling anyone that looks Latino, scooping them up and dealing with it afterwards. That is not how America or democracy works. That's just not.
And I don't know if you have the videos here, but there was reports of families being put in the federal building in Los Angeles in the basement without food or water.
Oh, I don't have. I mean, I can probably pull it
no,
up.
it's okay. You know, there's a lot of stuff that we still gotta go through. But these are the kind of the stories that people were hearing, and that, you know, pushed them to come to the streets. Is hearing that families, children, fathers were crying for their kids that were starving.
Yeah.
And these are the kind of things that people are like, ICE is making people disappear. They're going into businesses, and then they're putting children in locked rooms in basements without food or water.
Yeah. And that's what I don't. Sorry, it's just
I hear you holding it back. I hear you. And if anybody at home is hearing it, La Co-host really is holding it back.
No,
it's
no,
not
it's
bad.
fine.
It's not bad. It's not. It's
no, it's fine.
Appropriate.
It's just it sucks.
Yeah.
It's scary. This is stupid. I don't know.
No.
Yeah, like, I'm just sorry. It's just, I'm thinking of like literally children that are like, or families being separated. It's just, yeah. Anyways, let me go back to like facts and stuff.
No, and this is the reason why people went out to the streets, because they were caring about their fellow, you know, what is it, Los Angelino, you know what I mean? They're caring about their fellow human being picked up, families. They were going to schools. There was just so many
to graduations
to pick up.
They were going to elementary school graduations.
Parents.
Yes. And then leaving their little kid graduate, who just like seeing their parent just like, and I know we're focusing on children, but just as a person, like, just imagine anyone in your life. Just imagine you getting just picked up and dragged away. And you've done absolutely nothing wrong.
And people like, I like, you know, like, I keep thinking of people like Mahmoud Khalil, who is still detained. He's lost 4 months of his life. His child was born.
Yeah, he wasn't even there.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just insane. So ICE starts on June 7th, just rounding up people, wearing their masks, picking people up in front of garment stores and Home Depots. And this is where Trump has escalated the situation by...
Right. So sorry to interrupt.
No,
so like,
sorry.
it was, so yes, that's what happened on the 7th, right? And that's what led to protests that Friday. So, and those protests, right, of course, were handled by LAPD.
Yeah.
So if we look at this post, this is a news release from the LAPD. This is a Twitter post.
Yeah.
Dated June 7, 2025. And it reads from the LAPD: "Today, demonstrations across the city of Los Angeles remain peaceful, and we commend all those who exercise their First Amendment rights responsibly. The Los Angeles Police Department appreciates the cooperation of organizers, participants, and community partners who helped ensure public safety throughout the day." And they go on to, while today's events concluded without incident, the Los Angeles Police Department remains fully prepared to respond swiftly and appropriately to any potential acts of civil unrest. Our commitment to safeguarding the rights, safety, and well-being of all Angelenos continues day and night. We will maintain a heightened readiness posture and remain ready to ensure the continued safety of our communities.
I didn't know this. You found this for me. The LAPD never gives credit to people for protesting peacefully. Okay. So this is huge for the LAPD to be like, yo, y'all were protesting and it was peaceful.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was the statement from the LAPD. And you
wait.
Yeah.
Sorry. So it wasn't only the LAPD, right? As we saw, it was also LA's own governor, the Gavin Newsom,
California's own governor, LA mayor, California.
Sorry,
governor.
I'm burnt. California's governor, Gavin Newsom, who's been just out here doing it. But yeah, this is an ex post. Bear with me, y'all. From Gavin Newsom saying, quote, "I have formally requested the Trump administration rescind their unlawful deployment of troops in Los Angeles County and return them to my command. We didn't have a problem until Trump got involved. This is a serious breach of state sovereignty, inflaming tensions while pulling resources from where they're actually needed.
Mm-hmm.
Rescind the order, return control to California.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, he's talking about Trump's deployment of the National Guard to LA, claiming that they needed to intervene because the situation had got so out of hand.
When did he tweet that? The 8th. So this was literally, yeah, within the same day Donald Trump was like, these protests are getting worse, even though the LAPD is going, no, they're not. They're peaceful.
Right.
They're fine.
The governor is going, no, they're not.
Yeah.
And not only that, the California Attorney General, so looking at an NPR article entitled Sending Troops to LA and, quote, unnecessary escalation, end quote, says California Attorney General. And that is over here. So Attorney General Rob Bonta insisted that local law enforcement are using available resources to, quote, meet the moment of protests against immigration raids that at times have escalated to sporadic confrontations with police, blocked roads, and cars being set on fire. So we'll get into the things that have happened.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, things have happened. And we'll detail them and, describe them to you. But this is laying out the environment that come Friday, it was people were rightfully outraged and they took to the streets peacefully. Everyone's acknowledged it. And per usual, this administration has made up a fake narrative of things are going wild in LA. We got to just intervene. And even though the governor didn't ask for it, and if anything, explicitly said it wasn't necessary, we're still going to do it. They still sent them over.
Yeah.
So now, ironies, of course, everyone's past comes back to bite them.
All right, let's hit play. Let's hear what he has to say.
We have laws. We have to go by the laws. We can't move in the National Guard. I can call insurrection, but there's no reason to ever do that, even in a Portland case. We can't call in the National Guard unless we're requested by a governor.
So just from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
Him very much acknowledging that that's a requirement, pretty much. There's certain exceptions. I looked it up, and it's, if there's some kind of course, if there's some kind of emergency, or if the president has lost control and there's complete chaos and all of that stuff, then sure.
Yeah.
They don't need the governor to call things in. And that's essentially what this administration is trying to do, right?
Yeah. Is that what you're bringing up next? Like other times that other people have done it, like other times other presidents have called in the National Guard?
Yes, I was just going to focus on the Selma.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Show me what's next, because this is something where, like, okay, so in that video we saw Donald Trump talk about that, not sending in the governor in the 2020, that in the 2020 protest that we were seeing, right? And that's because, I mean, I just feel like he just didn't want to. How can I put this? A lot of these were for, for what happened to George Floyd and for, the rights that people were fighting for back then. And I don't think he back then had the full cachet to go and fully try and stop these protests and try and fully take control this way.
Yeah, he didn't know what he was. I mean, candidly, I don't think he still knows. I think he knows what he's doing now in the malicious intent kind of way. Because he has had a team of people behind him that have created, Project 2025 for him. And now he has a playbook to go off of.
Yeah.
So yes, in the first time around, and I think a lot of people have mentioned that Trump 1.0 was all over the place, and he's still all over the place, but now it's with intention.
Yeah.
And now the all over the place and the chaos is actually on purpose.
Yeah.
Right. As we've talked about, to distract, to shock, all that fun stuff, to overwhelm. Hence why I'm tired and exhausted from this week. But that's all intentional. And it's because he had a whole team of people behind him this time around create, again, a playbook. And that's what they're going off of, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
So yes, there have been other times in the past where the president has called in the National Guard for different reasons, right? A lot of the times, though, it's always been, this is an AP article called National Guard Troops in LA, the latest in a long history of deployments during civil protests. So yes, there have been other civil protests where the National Guards have been called in, right? The George Floyd protests, actually, at one point, they did have to call in the National Guard. The Rodney King protests.
That's right.
There was the Watts protest of 1965. And scrolling down a little bit further, integration protests, right, of the 1950s, 1960s. There was National Guard called in there. And scrolling down to Selma. The reason why we just scrolled past all the other ones is because in those other situations, the governor was involved.
Yeah, the governor requested. There was a conversation between the federal and the states.
The state's government was not superseded by the federal, right? Because there's also this concept of state sovereignty. States have the authority over certain issues in their own state. There are certain state rights, and I think we've all acknowledged them. That's why people can have, they can force women to be an incubator, even though they're brain dead, and in Alabama and stuff, and act like that's totally fine. But we call that human torture here. So that's why different states are allowed to have different sovereignty. So in the same way, if Los Angeles, California is telling you through their governor, they're totally fine, you as a president, the federal government are supposed to leave them alone. But anyways, going back to Selma, the reason why Selma is somewhat similar to the situation is because Selma was the last time a president called in the National Guard somewhere without the governor's request or approval.
Right.
But in that case, it was actually to protect protesters during the civil rights protests.
Yeah.
And which again is very
John
different.
Lewis was beat during this. It says it right here. He was severely beat during this,
Yeah. And the difference here is that obviously the National Guard was not called in to protect protesters. Neither was the Marines, but we'll get to that.
It is so wild how history did a coin flip. You know what I mean? The National Guards were sent in because the governor refused to protect protesters.
Right.
From the racist backlash. And this time, the government wants to be able to do the racist backlash and stop the protesters.
Right. And as we know now, it's also been escalated further by this administration. Not only did they call the National Guard, right, but they also called the Marines. And this is actually the ABC News kind of tracker of everything. But in talking about the Marines and the National Guard and essentially the parameters in which they're supposed to be conducting themselves, just reading this off from ABC News, the rules of force that they are operating under call for them to de-escalate any incident as much as possible, two U.S. officials said. They also have the right to self-defense. The Marines and the National Guard personnel receiving orders to deploy LA will operate under similar rules of force, according to two U.S. officials. That means they're tasked with protecting federal buildings and federal personnel only. They won't patrol streets, try to engage people, or detain rioters on behalf of police, the official said.
And by the way, this was from a day ago. How long ago was this? This
was posted June. No, this is from a couple of days ago, June 9th.
Yeah. Okay.
This was also like when it was originally announced that they were going to send Marines and stuff.
And by the way, we've already seen that is not the case.
Yeah.
I don't think we might have it here, but we already saw that the Marines, these National Guards, stopped the U.S. citizen who was in military also.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you saw that.
I don't think I did.
It just happened. So the National Guard stopped someone, detain them, who is a U.S. citizen who is also in the military.
Oh my God, that's hysterical.
And he wasn't even protesting. He was just kind of walking through.
Existing. Yeah, and he was racially profiled.
And he was black.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And also, going back to the article, these Marines and Guard personnel supposedly aren't using rubber bullets or pepper spray either, but they will carry ammunition as part of their uniforms that can be used in the rare case of self-defense. So what's a little hard about this is that when you look at the videos, and we'll go to that shortly, from the protests and all that stuff, it's very hard to tell who's what. Like who is a National Guard, who is LAPD, who is ICE, who is the Marines. Like, I mean, I guess if they're in fatigues, sure, maybe they're probably Marines, and then everyone else. But I don't know, right? Like, I just thinking of it high level, and then also having looked at so much footage from, it's very hard to tell. Like, unless you're close up, but then sure. But in terms of knowing whether or not they're following these parameters, talking about the National Guard and Marines, how could you possibly tell?
Yeah.
Right. All we see is footage of a lot of aggression from these troops and officials and people that we can't decipher who's who at this point. And who's to say it's pretty easy to change a jacket that says, that's Marine to police. I don't know.
The scariest thing is just, and again, we talked about this previously in other episodes, like that, a lot of stuff is just sold very easily through Amazon as well. Like, so you also can, in between all of this chaos, have imposters.
Exactly, which is all has been happening, as we talked about last time. I just realized I also wanted to go through one last point on this ABC article. And going back to the ABC article, at the bottom of this snippet, They go on to talk about this task force that's also being formed that I don't...
Between the Marine and the National Guard.
Correct. Where it says U.S. Northern Command confirmed Monday it has activated approximately 700 Marines to join some 2,100 National Guard soldiers in what it is referring to as Task Force 51. Task Force 51 forces are protecting federal personnel and property and have, quote, been trained in de-escalation, crowd control, and standing rules for the use of force, it said. So this is another, I don't feel like I've heard too much about Task 51, which doesn't necessarily mean much, but people are, it is starting to come out. Sorry, I just hit my mic. It is starting to come out that they're creating this and that,
Yeah. And people have also pointed out that Task Force 51 sounds like it's trying to be like a cheesy play on Area 51.
Yeah, because
like
they're ridiculous.
Yeah, like aliens and Roswell and stuff like that. And it's just it's just these people. I'm tired of these trolls thinking they're funny in this government. Like, oh, Task Force 51, let's make it Area 51. Let's put out, ASMR of undocumented people in chains. Like, I'm tired of the corny ass government that is just the trolls that is in the government,
and that they're making fun of the situation that's killing people. Like, whether people realize it or not, asylum seekers that have been sent back are for sure dead at this point, right? Like, people that were running for their lives, there's definitely people that have been hurt in some kind of way. There's definitely been people that have been
these stories are never going to be followed up.
There's
been a lot of people who have been disappeared or sent back that have been hurt,
and
that we're never going to hear the stories.
And also, people have to remember the amount of people that are being rounded up and not accounted for. It's countless at this point. It's countless. So to tie it all up in terms of where things stand kind of as of now, I think it's fair to say. So as of today, June 13th, an appeals court blocked an earlier lower court ruling, federal court ruling, saying the original court said that Trump actually didn't have authority to call in the National Guard and exceeded his authority in doing so. And said that he had to immediately basically stop. Of course, as you reported on a little bit ago, he went to the appeals court, and unfortunately, the appeals court ruled in his favor for now. They basically said that he can continue to use the National Guard while they hear arguments and have a hearing on whether or not he can actually. Which is really frustrating, again, as a lawyer and as we lawyers call ourselves officers of the court, right? To hear this from an appeals court, because you could have stopped continued damage. You could have stopped continued pain. You could have made sure that tomorrow was safer for protesters, right? By stopping this, but you didn't. So honestly, whatever happens, like, I'm really hoping nothing happens tomorrow, but like, if things escalate, whoever decided that at the appeals level, that's on your shoulders.
It is. I don't get it. I really am so confused at how Republicans could just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing evil and just keep winning and winning and winning. And meanwhile, if like Democrats were like, hey, we want to give everybody health care, it is unconstitutional, and we have to stop it, and we have to weaken it, and we have to, you know what I mean? Like, you try to do good, it's like, go fuck yourself. You try to do bad, and it's like, we're going to review how bad you can be.
Right. Yeah. They're going to test it.
They're going to test how bad you can be.
Exactly. And that's what it is. They're trying to push, and we'll get to that. Right. Yeah. So what we're going to share now is a TikTok video. Now we're going into kind of social media. So as you can imagine, because mainstream media shows only a certain level of content and information, a lot of what we're also going to be seeing on this episode is from social media, because a lot of people were wonderful in sharing information. So something that this creator pointed out was the fact that this administration is already showing its true colors, right? So let's play this video really quick.
Never trust a word this man says in any situation whatsoever. But Donald Trump is completely bullshitting you when it comes to what's happening in Los Angeles. You want to know how I know? Because Donald Trump last night posted about how the National Guard did such an amazing job cracking down on protesters and creating peace, when in reality, the National Guard hadn't even arrived on the ground in Los Angeles yet. So if he's congratulating...
So he didn't read the timeline of the script.
Right.
He was like, sir, they're not there for 2 more hours. You can't say we've had victory. We know that there's nothing going on, and as soon as we get there, we're going to claim victory, because there was, it's easy to claim victory when there was no crime, when there was no, no protest, no war like that.
Right. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And I mean, I believe, it's the way, even going back, and we were report on this. I mean, we already seen this from this administration. Like when they said that one Mexican guy sent a threatening letter to Donald Trump. We found out it wasn't him. They didn't do the due diligence. They didn't report. They just rather put out the story that helps their narrative.
Right.
And this is how this has been dangerous from the second this started, because they sent out these ICE agents to, be the Gestapo. And then when people started protesting, they started building the narrative that it was violence.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and I have a post here going off of that. That's a perfect segue from The Economist, where we have a reporter outlining just that. Let's see.
Something that will become apparent going forward is that the protests Friday and Saturday were relatively small and contained. Local police, I think, easily could have handled them. It was Donald Trump's escalation of the matter when he decided to call in at least 2,000 members of the California National Guard that required Los Angeles police, county police, the California Highway Patrol to come in and do the crowd control and kind of clean up the Trump administration's mess that it had made. So I'm sure this will increase tension further between the city, the state, and the federal government in what was already a pretty tense relationship filled with friction.
Let me just say this. There is always money for violence. There is always money for violence. How much is this costing? We're not going to get the full picture until later on.
Of course.
How much is Donald Trump spending on that useless birthday party parade tomorrow? Unbeknownst, on 134 million, I think.
While he's trying to cut however much money from all these different benefits.
He came mostly into power for the racist ideas that people of color and immigrants are getting hands out, and that, immigrants are coming here to get handouts or whatever. Like, there were studies done over and over and over and over again. First of all, it was not to the amount that these right-wingers were lying about what immigrants get. But even if there's like organizations who give money to asylum seekers after they arrive, like $900, and help them with like food for like a few weeks or whatever, people who get that kind of assistance, migrants, pay that money back 50, 60, 70 times fold just within a few years of going back to work and paying taxes.
Right.
Like, this is, as much as you cry, I want to yell every time, because these people try to, like, these businessmen it's just amazing how they're more racist than they are business. Okay. This is all hurting the economy as much as they care about it, hurting, business, hurting growth, hurting all this shit. But they don't care, because they would rather hurt Black and brown people more than actually make the money that they say they care so much about.
Pretty much, because the writing was on the wall the entire time. Yeah. Everyone was warning about this. This was not just because you chose not to believe it, and now your business is suffering, and now you want to get your good old workers back because that's all you see them as. Like, whatever, screw you, bro. Like
the government, this government in this country will lose their mind and marbles if the government spends $1 billion trying to help out people of color. But if they spend $22 billion hurting people of color, well, then that's just business.
Yeah. And that's why it's kind of all imploding, isn't it? So actually on that, chipper note, what I did, obviously not being on the ground there, it's hard not knowing what's happening, right? And I'm sure we all felt it, and I'm sure we were all on social media kind of checking to see the footage that was coming out. And fortunately, people were at the protests and showing exactly what was happening, right? So we'll get to, yes, I'm not going to lie and act like there weren't incidences of vandalism. Cars were getting blown up. Or not blown up. Cars were getting set on fire. No one put a bomb under a car. That's
they were set on fire, but then
because of tanks,
the lithium batteries.
Then they do all that stuff, right? And yes, people were throwing stuff at the police, in isolated incidences. But again, most of the protests were peaceful, right? So, for example, you have people who were bringing their toddlers, and we're out here dancing.
Look at little baby dancing la chola.
So people were out there, people were out there with their babies, and yes, there were, I just need to pull up each of these guys. So go ahead.
No, and it's amazing. See, these are the things that they didn't show you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is called joyous protest.
Right.
This is what people are out there showing. Hey, we're out here to fight for our right to party, baby.
Exactly.
Look at these beautiful people out there.
I'll add some.
Everybody say,
Look at that. The SEIU is out there.
And then we got also another one.
when the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only I will see.
See? Now,
Beautiful.
now let me tell you. Oh yeah, you're showing another one. Let me show you. Let's show another one from the joyous happy. You hear these sounds of beats and babies dancing and cooing and people out there just enjoying themselves.
And this white lady just dancing on her car.
Look, just some lady just dancing on her car
in the middle of the chaos. But again, this is, I think a lot of people have seen this particular area of this highway because what we're seeing here is that it was peaceful, right? We have protesters on the side. Yes, we're starting to block traffic. And yes, I will address that. But for the most part, it's peaceful.
It's peaceful.
We got random people just dancing on the side of stuff.
Are you gonna show us another video right now?
I'm gonna keep going, but you can keep talking because essentially for everyone, hopefully you guys are also watching video, but if you're only hearing audio, what we're trying to show is just different content showing how peaceful it was.
Yeah. And this is important to do because, you know, those images and those videos that you see of quote unquote people committing, you know, acts of vandalism, whatever, like they're very much using the same video over and over and over and over again.
That's why I'm trying to show different videos.
And yet
other stuff.
I think if you was to compile all the videos of all the joyous rebellion, all the joyous, it's called joyous rebellion, and all the dancing and love and the peacefulness or whatever, you would have thousands of videos. And then if you, again, just go to like, okay, what were the incidents? You would literally only have videos from 3 incidents.
Right. And the problem is that for a lot of people, or a lot of those people that believe that side, they only not have access, but their algorithm or geographic location will primarily show them the crazy, like the isolated moments, right, of craziness. That yes, it was crazy, and we'll show the craziness. But so I did want to show this because I thought this was fun. This is like this car just driving through, laughing Barbie girl. Look at the truth. I love LA.
Oh my gosh. See? Look at him just what up, Barbie girl?
Just like I'll like pause the music, but I'll play the video. Just like, just driving through. And again, if it was complete chaos, like the way they're framing it as if everyone's unaliving each other in the streets or something ridiculous. Like, no, that's not actually what's happening.
People came out to the streets to defend their community from them. They're so brainwashed and oblivious to the fact that, y'all the bad guys.
Right.
Y'all are the bad guys.
Right. So this is another, and again, just showing peaceful protest.
Wow, I had not seen this one at all.
So we're out here like
thousands of people peacefully walking.
Yeah.
Looking out for each other.
And it's not, that's what it's frustrating that the rhetoric has been so drastically different than what's actually happening, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, this is unbelievable. Look how many people are out there. Again, we've shown us, and I'm reiterating, but like Trump did create this image from these isolated incidences that this was chaos, but it's not. Even the LAPD put out a statement saying this is not chaos.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I have a lot more of content, but just for the sake of time, we can now pivot to essentially what they were. Well, actually, sorry, before we pivot to that, because I know some people have been making comments online about, oh, well, if you want to be in this country so bad, why are you waving any other flag other than the American flag? The two can be true. You can be proud of where you come from and also show that pride through waving your flag, especially when people are talking so much crap about your nationality, your heritage, your culture, and showing that you're proud of it.
Yeah.
And you can also still expect the United States to adhere to its constitution and follow its laws.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about here, people. Yeah. So it's not about, oh yeah, let's burn the flag. It's not about that energy. It's about, yes, I'm proud of my heritage, my parents' heritage, my family, and where they come from and where I come from. But I'm also proud. I mean, I'm not, but I'm also demanding that the government that I'm a citizen of, that I am a part of, that I pay into as a citizen, adhere to the Constitution and to its own laws.
Yeah.
That is what everyone is saying out there.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to start understanding.
And I'm also of the mindset that it's like, how do you expect anybody to be rocking the American flag when you saying that they don't belong here?
Right.
When the government is the one attacking the people, you're not giving people a lot of reason and a lot of pride to be and then, to be rocking that US flag. And then you're like, well, why would they rock the Mexican one? It's about a sense of, you see me as the adversary, and I am not your adversary. I am these things, but I am not like this evil that you paint me out to be.
Right. Exactly.
And you know what? There were marches in 2015 and 2014 where everybody had American flags and everybody was like, we out here. And guess what? They didn't give a damn. They didn't say, well, you know what? Look at these images of all these Mexicans with American flags. We have been doing that. Latinos have been marching with the American flag, and guess what? They didn't give a damn about us.
And if anything, they were criticizing people using that flag because it's like, well, that's not your flag.
That's not your flag. You're so stupid. You think they actually care about you? And then we go out and rock our own flags. Like, see, it's just, we're never good enough. And that's why I am tired of having to have my standards be to what this United States government thinks I should be behaving like.
Right. Exactly. So pivoting to what also happened, right? No, not so great stuff. So we saw that the protests were peaceful and things were fine, but looking at an AP article that they have photos that they took at the protest, so we can start seeing more of the damage, right? So we're seeing a car up in flames that says ICE on it, right? We're seeing someone actually raise a flower against them. We're seeing people throwing stuff to police cars from up top, right? From that same highway that we saw was really peaceful before these police cars showed up,
Before
right?
they showed up.
We saw how it was really peaceful, and now all of a sudden, right? And we were seeing flashbangs and fireworks being exploded. So there were reports of certain protesters using fireworks to defend themselves. And again, when you're presenting, you're saying like, oh, you have to evacuate the area and all, you have to give people time to leave.
Yeah.
There's all these people that are there that are trying to leave.
Like we saw them in other videos in horseback telling people to move, but literally as soon as they say move, they start hitting people with clubs.
Yeah. So, and right, exactly. So that becomes the problem. So we also had a report of Molotov cocktails being thrown, right?
A Molotov cocktail.
They accused several people of,
okay.
And this is alleged, right?
Okay.
So we weren't there. I don't know, right? So that
what? Allegedly.
Right. Allegedly. They also had that as well. And so also people were looting. And again, these are opportunists. And that's what people need to remember, that although there were some people that were looting in this store, there were people that were trying to stop it. So there's this video that I think is really important to hear as well.
These are people trying to stop looters inside of 7-Eleven.
So what we're seeing is a protester was stopping people from trying to loot a 7-Eleven.
Yeah, I just stopped it right there.
Yeah. And then of course the security officer then comes up and just posts up, act like he's doing something.
Oh my God. Yeah, but you see, people are trying to stop it. See, these are the kind of videos that should go viral, that should be everywhere in people's faces, like protesters trying to stop other people from being the opportunists, from taking advantage.
Yeah, we have another video of protesters basically kicking out looters from a store. And what people also need to realize, right? Like, so you see that there's people trying to get them out. And if everyone at the protest was looting, right? If that's the mentality that everyone's looting and they're just trying to take advantage and blah, blah, see what they're doing, then wouldn't everyone be walking around with some like fresh kicks and like some Fire TV? I don't know. Like you would be having something, I'm assuming.
Exactly. And that's why, like, this is where again, we see that this all could have been handled by local police. Hell, let's not even try to get there. Like, this should have never happened because Trump shouldn't have been taking away people's rights in the first place.
Exactly.
This is the thing that Trumps keep using. This is the thing we wanted to paint with this story, is that to show you with the story is that Donald Trump creates the chaos, then has the audacity to be like, I have to control this chaos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how are you going to be controlled? So you can't. This is the thing that people need to understand when you are dealing with a narcissist. Our narcissist will abuse you, hurt you, right? And then when they slightly stop abusing you, then you're like, oh my God, thank you so much for not abusing me so much.
Mm-hmm. Not realizing that they were doing it the whole time. It's honestly, it's hysterical because this is how we started off his presidency. Remember with the whole TikTok ban. Everyone forgot that the ban was his idea years ago.
From the first place.
He was the one that created the problem. And then he came out, and not only did he, but also TikTok, came out acting like he was the savior of everything when he was the one that created it. That's kind of the MO of this administration too. So it makes sense. It's true to form. And going back to what also happened, we also saw a lot of Waymos for some reason were targeted. And I did some digging, and it actually kind of makes sense, right? Because if you look at the videos of the Waymos and pictures from what happened, they tagged everything up with ICE, it's DHS, it's all that stuff, right? The Waymos are symbolic, twofold actually. So first, it's obviously the symbolicness of ICE being written on it's supposed to represent ICE, and obviously we're tired of what's happening and we're tired of what they're doing to people. And it's also about surveillance and the people being tired of being surveilled because Waymos have cameras everywhere because they're self-driving and they need it, of course, to not run into things and all that. But at the same time, they are surveilling everything around them. Yeah. And this company is doing God knows what with it because I didn't look into it because I didn't have time, but who knows, right? So it's also a notice to tech companies and and AI companies and the surveillance and all of that and all of his buddies that we've seen stand behind him as he's doing his speeches. It's a message to them that like, we're also tired of that. It's not okay. We have rights to our privacy as well. We have data privacy rights as well. So like, I don't understand the outrage that is happening from the public, and like kind of bringing this back full circle of the damage that's being done. It's a little ridiculous when you put it into context of what people are upset about. Kidnappings. Our democracy is falling apart. Due process. The letter of the law doesn't basically mean anything anymore under this administration per their own actions. This is what people are upset about. Our government is crumbling. And that is what we're peacefully, for the most part, most of us are out there in the streets trying to protest against. That's what people are upset about.
And also their reaction to us protesting, because like, look, we're not going to play this video and we got to get out of here. But I just want to finish off on this. You know, there was a video of a police officer in Florida talking about the No Kings March going on tomorrow and basically saying, if you block traffic, we will run you over. If you do this, we will arrest you. If you do that, we will arrest you. If you do anything that hurts our officers, we will have the right to kill you. So at one time I was like, man, Trump's so emboldened. No, Trump has also emboldened all these police officers and these ICE agents and even some military people that wanted to have that whole white supremacy. Cops should be able to control and kill anybody that they want. The guy said it straight up in a press conference. We will murder you. If you do not act the way we want you to act. What kind of protesting is that then?
I keep waiting to not be shocked. Like I'm kind of shocked, but like, nah,
I'm sorry.
Well, and actually on that note, the scarier part of that mentality and an officer saying that, which I think is a good segue to this video, maybe our last video.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's make this our last video for tonight.
This is a woman at the LA protest. This is after the officers have told them to disperse, and she's trying to find, as we said, a clear and unobstructed way out, right? They're not being clear on how to get out. So let's listen to this video.
I gotta say, people are trying to leave, but we've basically been trapped on all sides, and there's no way to get to the metros. So people want to leave before curfew, but no one really knows how. Seems like they want everyone to, oh shit. Yeah, past curfew. Okay, I don't know where we go, but this is happening.
So we have them rolling
Wow.
in. She's
Yeah.
trying to get out.
Yeah.
And then when that happens, then you have stuff like this happening.
This is all within the same time frame.
This is literally people hiding, and they shot a person
wow
in the head with a rubber bullet.
Still broad daylight. They weren't giving people a way to get out.
Right.
And
exactly.
they shot somebody with a beanbag in the head.
With a rubber bullet.
With a rubber bullet. Excuse me. No, it's beanbag bullets kind of things. Like there's also like yeah.
Oh, with sand.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
that's
okay.
like Jesus, poor people.
No, you should hear this. Here to protect and serve.
Is he really
here to protect and serve?
Yeah.
He really telling the people to take her to the hospital when they shot her.
Yeah.
When she was trying to get out of there.
Exactly.
This you see, and you wonder like they escalated.
Correct. It's and then this last one. I'm sorry. I know I said it was. I just think it's really important for people to see this.
Yeah.
So this is video. We don't need to put the audio because it's a news report showing police officers on horse or officers on
click
horseback.
it up so people can see it.
Oh, sorry. Officers on horseback basically trampling this man who's trying to walk away and trying to get out of it. This is a clearer one, I believe. Yeah.
There it is.
So
yeah,
the guys
clearly see him just beating him.
Yeah. And he's trying to get up, and they're the cops are surrounding him. Look, they got they're having their horses trampled.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, I hadn't seen all that. No.
Yeah.
No, you're gonna. I'm about to start crying. Come on. We gotta get out of here before I can't take any more of this.
Yeah. So this
is it. That's
it.
it.
That's why I've been depressed all week.
Yeah. Yeah. She's been doing all this research for us, and this is
it's
unreal.
I have a lot more of there was also this guy who dropped off masks, and now the FBI arrested him because he wanted to help protesters. And so yeah, y'all.
Yeah.
It's rough times.
And we try to paint the picture for y'all that this was all escalation from a Trump administration. Escalation to get people to respond, to then continue. He's going to continue doing this. This is his blueprint.
Yeah, he's trying to push, just to make it clear, he's trying to push to get people to react, to then claim civil unrest, to then have to quote unquote enact martial law. So then, and again, friendly reminder, martial law basically means that any law and everything is controlled by the president.
That's
everything from your garbage pickup to your mail to the most random everyday thing will be controlled by the president under martial law. And he's trying to paint a picture that everything is falling apart, but when it's really just the antagonizing of his policies and the troops that he's sending in. So everyone, please stay safe.
Yeah. If you go on protests and No Kings, please stay safe. And just stay alert and aware of what this administration is trying to do, and don't fall for it.
Yeah, don't
fall for it.
Don't fall for it. Just remember to question things and ask those vital questions.
I think that's everything for this week.
Yeah.
Sorry if the episode sounds a little all over the place. Once again, we had a few tech issues today, but we're going to try to edit around it so you can get everything and still get the full message of what this story was.
Yeah, but again, we assume that a lot of people have heard some parts of this, but hopefully this paints a full picture of what's supposed to be happening and what's not.
Yeah.
And remembering that people are out there because their friends and family are disappeared.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are still looking for people.
Yeah.
And there's no record of anything. So if that doesn't tell you our democracy is falling apart, I don't know what does.
It does. Guys, seriously, just stay vigilant, stay sharing information. If you can, remember, there are multiple ways to protest. You could protest by, going out to a march if you feel safe enough. You could protest with your dollars. Don't spend money on companies that are supporting this, or support people who are bringing you information by going to our Substack, Che Guerrero ENG, and following us on all social media. Please keep supporting us so we continue bringing you this work. Yeah, that's it for this week. So again, it was a heavy one. I think you hear from both of us as well, but but we wanted to bring you all this information because it was important before we get into the No Kings marches.
Yeah. So stay safe, everyone. And let's just try to focus on staying strong during all this and making sure we're all in this together.
Yep. Hey, listen, take it easy. We will come back next week with another episode. We're going to try and keep it coming out Thursday, Friday. But again, please give us some grace. It might change a few days throughout the week only because these stories are getting hard to keep up with, and want to make sure bring you all the information correctly when we actually give you an episode.
Correct.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. See you
Thank
next
you.
week. Remember to follow us on Substack. Have a good one. Say bye, La Co-host.
Bye. Thanks for listening,
Bye.
everyone.